Hey there YouTube, I'm Yukitsu, this is Yukitsu Times, welcome to my channel, welcome to Total War Warhammer. So we're continuing along, just playing each of the different factions, getting back into the game a little bit, and trying to figure out just where things sort of sit more in depth in the meta right now, faction by faction, doing more deep analysis of these games. We're on to Brettonia, second faction, and I think that they're still a pretty strong one. I still think that they're one of the better ones. I do think that they're sort of like slowly having the air game peeled a little bit away from them, just because they've added pretty good air options for other people, and it made it so that hero-based air units are a little bit more viable. So we're going to be interested to see how that goes. This is Northern Chaos Waste. It's a pretty good map for Brettonia. We'll take a fully upgraded load lane core. I feel like that is always a pretty good option. We're up against the Beastmen herds here. Going to be a little bit tricky to fight against them in some respects. I feel like this is a matchup where the damsel isn't super important. We're going to get 4 of those guys. They'll be the only things that can really easily deal with Gorbles. I think that Paladins are still useful here. We can get rid of their abilities. They're not too important. And this drops their price down quite a bit. I don't know if I need them in the air or not. I feel like on the ground is going to be fine. I just need something that can sort of like hold its own against something like a Gorble. Keeping these guys on foot even is pretty good here. We're going to take potions of toughness on these guys, both of them. Okay, so we got a decent amount of infantry there. Going to take some of those guys. We're going to take a couple of Pegasus Knights, in fact. Actually, just one Pegasus Knight ought to do with Lone Lane Corps. So we'll take a couple of the Knights of the Realm as well, and see if we can't pop in another Knight of the Realm by doing something like that there. So 3 Knights of the Realm is quite a few, but I feel like the Peasant Bowmen are going to have a hard time in this fight. Alright, so the reason that I'm taking the Paladins is I need something that can sort of tank in a fight against the Gorbles. I don't need anything that can beat them per se, and the Paladins cannot beat a Gorble. They will get stomped by one, but they cost half as much. In fact, this is a really cheap price, $577. Taking their abilities away from them and just throwing a potion on them leaves them pretty cheap. I didn't give them the horses because the horses would have made them large, and that would have made them more vulnerable to that sort of thing. I could have taken the Pegasi, but like as well, I don't know for sure that I really feel like I need a big air amount of air units for this. Although Beastmen do struggle against air units, so I could have taken a lot of that. I feel like just really focusing on Lone Lane Corps and using him effectively is going to be a good substitute for that. Not sure if it would have been a good idea to have a damsel. Like the damsel's spells are so bad against Beastmen, in my opinion. Because you don't really need Curse of the Midnight Wind. They've not got much armor to begin with, so reducing it from 15 to 0 doesn't really make much difference. The minus 32 to attack is pretty destructive against them, but it's not super important to do it. And none of the spells that deal damage for Lore of Heavens really does much against the sort of formations that the Beastmen use. I think that they're better for clumped up armor units. Or, of course, anything that does magic damage is good against ghosts, so you would use them against ghosts as well, even though they're not armored. So, yeah, we got a 2-line sort of setup here. We got the Spearmen up front, and then we got the Halberds in the back. The Halberds are just reserved to try and defeat the Gorbles. The Spearmen are actually perfectly fine against regular old Minotaurs. In terms of their bonuses and their stats and everything like that, like it's not much better to use the Halberds because that armor piercing doesn't come into play, but you need something with armor piercing to deal with the Gorbles to a certain extent. Now, none of my units are really good enough to beat any of the Beastmen units. Like if you just got tons of gore herds, then I'm going to crumble. But it'll take him a while to crumble my lines, I think. So, stretch out pretty thick lines, actually. We have to watch out for Cygors if he summons a bunch of them, but this isn't a great map for them, so I don't know if he'll have those, or if he'll have the air units. If he summons those air units, the thing is, I just have the Pegasus Knight here to snipe those sort of things. They're actually pretty good at taking them out, sort of one by one. I'm going to wait to my left side with the ground and then have the air unit on the right there. And then we're going to have our paladins spread out in our front lines here a little bit. Might be a better idea to keep them a bit further back, that way I can more easily move them around as necessary to intercept Gorbles, but we'll see how things go. My opponent, for all I know, might take 3 of them, which would really be difficult for me. Yeah, we're going to push up fast because I don't want my opponent having a lot of time to summon stuff, and I didn't take any artillery, so that no artillery sort of playstyle does mean that I need to get in there and fighting him a lot faster. Yeah, Lone is going to be a pretty key in this fight, just being able to Goomba stomp units from behind. shatter them really, really quickly. That's what I'm going to focus him on in this one, is just really getting rid of that infantry very, very fast. I think that that's probably my best bet. I will be using sort of the spearman on stationary instead of charging in, but it could be a little bit difficult if he's got a lot of shooting. I might have to charge in, which would really suck. It's not as though Ungor Raiders are super, super common in large numbers, but it is possible that my opponent decided to take them. Although it does thin down his melee units enough that it could benefit me anyway. Yeah, no, it's tons and tons of gore herds. And he's got a chariot over here. Oh no, those are minotaurs with shields. 3 gore bulls on the right there. His general is Malagor. See if we can't get a quick charge on these guys. Go for a quick charge here and see if we can't deal a little bit of damage there. Yeah, a bunch of Ungor Raiders. Fortunately, they don't do too much damage to my Knights of the Realm. I want to see if we can't snipe down Malagor here. Alright, let's get out of here. Dealt a little bit of damage to them. We need to focus fire on these guys. I got caught, so I'm gonna have to get out of that, but I did also then countercharge them, so. Alright, so Lord Linkor actually took a bit of damage there. Let's charge into the back of these guys. Alright, so my opponent is firing into this melee quite a bit. It's dealing quite a lot of damage to me, actually. Alright, Lone, let's get him out of the fight here. Yeah, Lone needs to get out of there before those Gorbals all charge into him. My halberds are getting trashed here, so they're going to rout. My knights are getting pretty trashed as well, but the minotaurs are pretty much out of the fight here. It's protecting those units pretty effectively, those ranged units. 1 unit of Gores is down. Alright, we need to run these guys out here if we can. Yes, Warhounds, we're going to try and charge. I want these Pegasus Knights out of the fight here. I think we've got this pretty wrapped up, though. Oh, Lone Linkor needs to get out of this fight here. Need to get Lone Linkor back into the air. Halberds into these Gorbals. Alright. Let's go ahead and use the Cursed Sword and all of our buffs here. Goomba Stomp these guys here, even though these Gorbals are wreaking havoc among us. We should still be able to win that fight. Knights are doing a pretty okay job around here. Kind of want these Knights of the Realm to go charge into this. See if we can't kill Malagor here as well. It's going to be pretty out of the fight at this point in time. Alright, so I think we got some sort of spell hex on us right now. Alright, one of my paladins is pretty badly wounded. This one's also getting hit, but isn't too badly wounded yet. These Gorbals are taking a lot of damage, so we're relatively okay here. Where's my Pegasus Knights? Let's get them into these archers here. They've sort of reformed a bit. Alright, so we've Goom Stomped that archer unit. Let's go ahead and Goom Stomp this archer unit. Okay, this guy still has to use his potion, so let's use it. Alright. King. Kill off all of these archers. Let's get a charge on this guy here. The Gorbles here can't actually get that much killing done that quickly, so this is actually not that bad for our units here. Alright. I think those gore herds are pretty much all gone. Alright, so we got quite a few units left in this fight here. Going to try and kill Malagor again. Alright, I just want these shattered so that they stop coming back into the fight. King Lowen should be able to kill this Malagor pretty easily. Gonna upgrade his stats a bit here. I just want to kill the general, then I can get out of there. I don't necessarily need him for fighting this other stuff. Let's get him out, actually. Need to spam click a lot here. We'll get ready for another charge against him. Alright. Can come in for another charge relatively safely here now. See if we can't kill him. That Cygor is almost dead as well. Alright. Alright, one of my paladins is out of the fight, unfortunately. And after a hit from that brute, I took a lot of damage there, so I need to get back in the air here. See if I can't run this guy down, though. Alright. So we'll try and focus down some of these units. But once I kill the general, I should be in a pretty good spot, regardless of everything else. Those gore herds got trashed there. Enemy general is dead. Lowen Leoncoeur is going to slowly start gaining his health back. Yeah, archers are down, but that's fine. I'm not actually too bothered about losing my archers. Alright, so Paladins are coming back into the fight. See if we can't kill this guy in a quick charge here. Well, we can knock him down at the very least. Let's get back to my units. Yeah, these Gorbles are awfully awkward to have to deal with. Alright, let's see if we can't peg this Gorble here. They're pretty tough for, like, the Brettonian army to deal with, actually. Alright, let's get these halberds into the fight as well. Last Gorble is coming back into the fight here. Alright, let's get all of our units collected up over here. We are reducing the damage caused by him by having our general nearby, so that is helping. And of course, like, the morale boost that he provides is also really good. But yeah, we're causing, like, no damage to these Gorbles with our arrows and stuff like that. Might be a good idea to just focus all this onto the Cygor, actually, but got a good charge on him. Knocked him down a lot of hit points. Let's go charge this one, actually. Activate these abilities. Alright. So that charge decimated that Gorbel's health. So that's one off the field, basically. Alright, so we want to focus down this next Gorbel here. Their morale is not breaking as fast as I would have expected it to, honestly, given the circumstances. Alright, this unit is practically full health. Let's get it into the fight as well. Alright, let's get you over towards here as well. You over here as well. This one's nearly full health, so taking him out is kind of a priority, but this one's just getting torn down. Alright, Lowen. So that should morale break this guy relatively soon. And yeah, that's victory there. Took a lot more to hammer down those last few units. Like, the morale should have broken way earlier than it did. I don't know what was keeping them in the fight, but definitely one of those ones where, you know, yeah, so just sort of ignored the Gorbels until I could clean them up at the very, very end there. There's nothing they could do at that last bit of that to win. 126 kills on the Pegasus Knights, 146, 107, so Knights did a ton of work here. Infantry did their job very well, letting Low and Lean Corps deal with the fight longer. The Paladins were just there to put down some damage on the Gorbels, and we actually took one down, which is pretty rare for me. Minotaurs we managed to take out pretty easily with the Knights, and with a mix of Halberds and Knights. Archers as well thrown in there for a little bit, but they didn't get very many kills down, and they're a very, very expensive unit. So let's go ahead and sort of analyze how the battle went as a whole. A little bit more carefully here. So Brettonia, I think, is again just a solid faction that relies very, very heavily on these basic troops being really high quality, really high value. The Paladins were actually pretty good with being on foot. They weren't too susceptible to those Gorbels there, and they were able to deal some pretty good tanking. Like, they took a ton of damage that would otherwise have gone to my other units. These Gorbels still did cause a ton of damage to all my units, but I rolled through their Gore herds really, really quickly. Their Ungore Raiders did a pretty good job, actually, of being, like, really hard to deal with, but I still managed to take them out. That's because this composition isn't very good at protecting your sort of lines of Ungore Raiders. And Ungore Raiders, like, if they can fire off all their shots, they don't do very good armor-piercing damage, but if they can fire at unprotected units, they're pretty good. I'm wondering, like, yeah, this guy got double potions on all these Gorbels. I'm not sure what kept them in the fight so long in terms of the leadership, though. The leadership is 73, which is okay. That's, like, fine, but it's not great or anything. Like, once all of the infantry fled, I would have thought that they would have had a much harder time with things, but apparently not. Alright, so, yeah, my Knights, I decide to sort of shy off because the Minotaurs are getting too close. He's, like, rushing them forward. I do really want to take out my opponent's general here. This is just one of those conditions where, like, if I could have... I'm just a millisecond too late here. If I had knocked him backwards, it would have actually canceled the Cygor summon. For some reason, we did 0 damage to Malagor on this charge, which is kind of irritating to me. Bunch of Minotaurs charge in as well. Like, yeah, we legit did 0 damage on that charge to Malagor. Like, I don't... Like, every time this happens to me, I lose half my health from the charge. Like, just straight up. So... over here, the reason I pulled these guys back was he got a clean charge, but I got a clean counter charge with the second unit of Knights, so I pulled this one back. It stopped them from getting their charge bonus against my Knights. We're targeting them with some missile units. I'm getting these halberds in here, but I'm using it mostly to stop these Gore herds from properly reinforcing this fight. We're then pulling the cavalry back in, and that's just because I want to get this fight done over with quickly. We're taking tons and tons of damage to these Knights of the Realm, but my Knights of the Realm are a vastly inferior unit to those Minotaurs with shields. Low and Lean Corps and the Pegasus Knights are just dealing with Ungore Raiders mostly. And this has really thinned down my opponent's lines. Like, here's the thing. My opponent has brought back this unit of Gore Herd, but his front line now consists of 3 units of Gore Herd, one of them severely battered by my archers. So what's going to happen here is that my Spearmen at Arms are going to be able to completely wreck just 3 units of Gore Herd, even though his guys are more expensive, just because I've got so many more troops than he does. back here as well, like, this fight's going to go my way. It's going to go my way slowly and with a lot of losses, but I am going to win that, and I have got less points invested over there overall. Or a little bit more, actually. A little bit more, but I'm going to come out with more anyway. So over here, Goreherd, it's just standing here getting pummeled by the one unit of archers that's not too invested in the rest of the fight here. Like, these guys are, I've got targeting something specific. The other one I was letting auto-fire. Lone Linkor is the one taking these arrow shots, but he has high armor, so he's not taking much, and this unit is going to get cleared out. So I wanted to clear out all this infantry very quickly. These guys got shattered by a knightly charge, which was actually really, really good. Here comes the Minotaurs, the Gorbals, all of them just trying to assassinate my general. There's no real reason for him to do anything other than that. Like, he could have used them decisively earlier on, and I think that would have been much, much smarter here. Lone Linkor is just going to retreat, and since I can retreat through my own units, through my own paladin here, that's going to work out just fine for me. Throwing some rocks at this unit of like Spearmen at Arms, that's a bit of a waste of a Cygor, honestly. It gets a lot of kills in this game, I'm pretty sure, but it's not really relevant. So here, like, yeah, this Goreherd with shields is doing a good job, but he could have used an Ungoreherd, and it would have been much more cost-effective, and they would have been better at the roll. He could have, in fact, taken, like, 2 units of Ungoreherd and defended back here instead of this Goreherd with shield, and that would have been much better for stopping my cavalry from trashing all of these archers. He's even bringing another Goreherd back here to deal with my cavalry that are all sort of mixed in with his ranged units. Those Ungors are pretty much all gone. So his infantry line has crumbled, and he's still firing away at this unit of retreating guys. But, yeah, at this point in time, like, his entire threat, like, his entire army just is 3 Gorbals, and I can beat 3 Gorbals without too much difficulty. My paladins are getting, like, crushed here, but I kind of expected them to. That's why I got those potions. I should have bought 2 of each. I should have bought 2 potions. Okay, so I'm charging in against Malagor, charging in against the Cygor. I want to deal some damage to it. Unfortunately, this Goreherd follows my knights, and that's going to wreck them. However, like, the shots don't really matter at all against Lone Linkor here, and he's dealing really good damage to Malagor now. I don't know why he did such bad damage in the first charge. At this point, I think I'm sort of moving around because I figure, like, Malagor is probably running out of useful spells to use right now. Although it looks like he just basically bought Vile Tide along, so nothing too scary from him. Now, the Cygor is still in the fight, which is really annoying. He manages to get one of my air units. That's so annoying. Shots coming down into the Goreherd. Like, there's, again, no point in me firing at his Gorbals. They just don't take damage from arrows and stuff like that, so it doesn't really make a difference. This one, these guys, like, I can kind of understand why you would take them. They're really, really strong. They're really super good. I don't think that people who rely on them as their main killing unit are realizing what they're really good at, because they're not actually your best killing unit. If you lose your entire army too quickly, and, like, heroes of all sorts get kills slowly. They'll slowly rack up a large number of kills over the course of a battle. And a unit like my Pegasus Knights, for example, can tear through a light support unit really, really quickly. Like, they've got 94 kills. That's way more than any one of his hero units. It's just that over the course of the battle, because Gorbals are so durable, they can get 100 kills just over the course of a very long fight. What they can't do is just get kills very quickly, wrap up an army, and destroy it very quickly. And what I took could destroy his army very quickly. All he's got is a few units, scraps left. I've got tons of units that are going to rally, and they'll be a big threat to my opponent. So Malagor getting charged again, again taking like 0 damage on the charge, because that's apparently how things work when I'm playing. I don't know. It's one of those sort of bullshit things that happens. We did get rid of, like, the support units finally, completely, I think. Pretty much. Lone Linkor here doing a pretty good job of fighting this off. But Cygor is actually pretty tough. I don't really like being in melee combat against it all that much, necessarily. It's not as good as a giant, but it is pretty close. This is the big problem, though. I really don't want to be in melee combat with Lone Linkor against the Gorbal. I do think that that's actually the major threat in terms of melee combat against him. So I take to the air here, and we're sending our troops off to try and kill Malagor here. Got some good charges off, actually. Yeah, Goomba Stomp here. We're attacking this Gorbal with a mixer of halberds and with our paladins, so It's actually quite good damage. Lil Mancor, however, takes huge damage every time that stupid Gorbel gets even near him. It is a perfect counter against something like Lil Mancor, but he gets away with 500 health, so that's quite a bit. Especially for someone that regenerates, so he'll get back up on his feet eventually to a certain degree. This fight is not going to go my way just because he's funneling all his reinforcements into it. Like, I'm bringing all my units sort of towards this area as well, but it'll take me a while to get there. Here's... You know, I just need to finish off Malagor, because I do think this is going to come down to morale, this fight. So, yeah, he's down to 170 health. Lone Lincor is just being a douche, showboating around him before coming in for the kill. And just, yeah, pecks him to death, basically. And that is Malagor. The Dark Omen dead on the field. Lone Lincor already back up into the 600s of health, so he's doing fine. But I have to be careful with him. I have to use him specifically for charges. Over here, like, this fight is going really, really poorly just because I've gotten overwhelmed by in terms of numbers and stuff like that. I've got my general radius, so I'll hold out a little bit longer. But at this point in time, I'm mostly just using the Lone Lincor because he's got that damage reduction aura, which is really, really good. And I've got a couple other buffs that are quite strong. Cygor, we get that interrupting charge in. He just gets knocked over before he can throw that rock. So then I sort of back out again. My paladin over here broke after he saw the giant almost fall down on top of him, I guess, but... Gorbels over here, they're trying to, like, pin down and kill Lone Lincor, so they're sort of running where he goes, but at this point in time, we've got my massive infantry sort of into the Gore herds with shields there. And, yeah, this last Gorbel over here, I'm not sure which potions he's used. He might want to pop one at this point in time if he hasn't yet, but it's been long enough that he might have already used them. So at this point in time, yeah, we're just surrounding and overwhelming what units he has left. Anytime I see a unit go below like a few hundred hit points, it's a great time to just Goomba stomp them with King Lone Lincor. Other than that, though, I want to keep him relatively safe, because if he dies, it is really bad for me at this point in time. It's almost up to 1,000 hit points, though, which is really quite good. Yeah, just Brettonian troops flooding back into the fight, tons and tons of them. It's giving him pretty even on the... I think this is why he wasn't running. It's giving him high on the balance of power bar, partly because of the cost of these units that he has. Like, the Cygor is very expensive, and it's shifting the balance of power bar very much in his favor, more so than it normally should be. The Gorbels are very, very expensive, so they're, like, arbitrarily inflating that. But now the Cygor is dead, so that's one thing down. This Gorbel is basically going to go down pretty quickly. He keeps going after these archers. Again, Gorbels are kind of a waste against archers because they're so expensive they don't hit a wide frontage of it, so the hits that they do get are overkill. Over here we've got the Gore Herd with shields just getting completely wrecked. They're gone pretty much as well. Like, when everything that you have that you're relying on is these big expensive hero units, if I just ignore them, like, they can rack up the kills, sure, 50, 75, so that's, yeah, 75 I think, 79 now. Those are pretty high numbers, those are pretty good numbers, but it's not like 126. You get kills faster with other units, like these guys, 145 kills. Especially for light support units, like weaker units like the Brettonian infantry, heroes aren't really a good decision against them. If I had Grail Knights or something like that, then it would have been a really smart idea to have had 3 Gorbels, because then they could have torn through those really expensive premium units. But, like, I don't really care that this guy got 84 kills against my little peasant guys. You know, it just really doesn't matter. If he had gotten 92 kills against Knights of the Realm or whatever, that would have been really good, but that's not what he was fighting. If he'd managed to snipe out King Lone Lincor, that would have been really good. But as it was, these guys just aren't really that effective against the majority of my army here. They get kills very, very slowly against them, and my army can just ignore them, roll completely over all of his infantry, and you can see that most of his stuff did fairly poorly. One of his units did pretty well. A couple of them did kind of okay, but the rest of them did pretty trash. And you know, it's the army that wins you these fights, no matter what you would sort of otherwise think. The paladins did poorly on my side, other than tanking out some damage, which is what I brought them for. But I could have really replaced them with more halberd units, and that would have functioned pretty well as well. Yeah, so that is another, that's our Brettonian match here. Let's take a look at sort of the way I could have thought about this differently. So I still think King Lone Linkor is an amazing general, but one of the things that you can do instead is take the regular general. He has pretty close to the same armor piercing damage. He's got the same sort of armor, so his stats aren't that different. But then you can go ahead and just take a potion of healing, a potion of that, and then you can take all those abilities there. So he's not going to be quite as good as Lone Linkor because he doesn't have the regeneration, but he does have the healing potion and the potion of toughness. So he's got much more immediate bursts of healing, whereas Lone Linkor has got slightly higher statistics. Or actually could be quite a bit higher statistics now that I think about it. Actually, no, only slightly higher statistics. And he's got the cursed Sword of Crone, which is a very, very good debuff to your enemy around you. Lets you cause kills really, really quickly with your weaker units. Although I didn't use it that effectively in this case. I think I just used it to try and snipe Malagor. Bit of a waste of it. And he's got the Beloved Son of Brettonia, which is a really, really good ability there. Map-wide plus 8 melee attack. Like, I think that alone makes it so that he's so strong. Like, if you think about it this way, this means that Spearman at arms is a 32 attack unit. Then arm polearm is a 34 melee attack unit. Like, that's actually really, really ridiculously good. It adds to the value of the already high value units that the Brettonians have. So it's just a really, really strong one. And then, of course, the Blessing of the Lady, as well as the Lady's Champion for the regeneration. So he becomes very, very tanky and durable. I could have ignored the Paladins, maybe. Let's sort of see what we could have taken if we hadn't taken Paladins. So we could have taken something like this. So we could have taken like an extra Pegasus Knight maybe, which would have been potentially useful, or we could have taken maybe like upgrade some Knights to Grail Knights maybe. So we could have taken like 2 units of Grail Knights, and Grail Knights are actually extremely, extremely strong. Their charge is just one of the most devastating things of the game, and that could have done something different. I'm not sure if I would have liked that in that composition though, because we'd be against those Gorbles. We could have taken something like an extra spam of infantry. Like, we could have taken a huge melee army. So we could have taken a full roster army here if we hadn't taken the heroes. Would that have been better? Maybe. I think that it would have given me some more flexibility in some respects, because the heroes can't really be everywhere. This would have made it very, very difficult to kill the Gorbles, but I would have had more combat resolution at the end there, which would have potentially seen them off. For my opponent, like, when I'm thinking about being against Brettonia, like, I expect them to not necessarily have huge numbers of knights, and the knights aren't really my biggest concern. I still would think about them, but I would consider something more like, maybe if I'm going to take Malagor, I'd take Malagor. Then this is a spell setup that I believe he had, and I bet he had the Icons of Vilification. I would consider maybe taking 2 of these guys, and I would again get rid of these abilities here. The reason that I would take 2 of these guys at all is to guard the flanks, and I would use them as flank protectors, and I wouldn't use them the way he was using. He was trying to use them to assassinate Lone Linkor, and I was sort of cognizant of that because he kept them in reserve. He kept using them to sort of follow my flyers, and I was just like, okay, well, I'm just not going to land. There's no reason that I should want to land, and you're not going to snipe a Brettonian general with these guys. That's not what they're for, but they could have been used against the Knights of the Realm on the flanks, and that would have protected his Ungor archers a lot better than what he was using. Especially because these guys have the speed boosts that brings them up to par with knights and stuff like that. So I could take something like this for my heroes. I think that would be plenty strong enough. I would take a couple of these guys. Like 3 of these is enough to cover my archers pretty well. Goreherd with shield, he had something like, I believe, 5. Although I think maybe it was 4 and then one of the Goreherd. So, like, yeah, you could take something like that maybe. And then he had 4 of these guys. I think that's too many. Like, 4 of these guys is overkill, especially against someone like Brettonia who can out-skirmish them. The Peasant Bowmen are cheaper but more effective, so like I don't want to get into a skirmish fight against Brettonia, so I might take like 2 of these guys or 3 of these guys. So we'll take 3 of them. Against Brettonia, I think that the Minotaurs with shields are really good, so I would take 2 of them. So this is a sort of composition that you might want to see against Brettonia, in my opinion. Based on what my opponent had taken, this is sort of like my spin on it and what I think would have been harder for me to beat. So yeah, my front line would still crack pretty quickly under this, but the Minotaurs, the shields, going dead center instead of going around the flanks, using the Gorbles on the flanks to try and deal with those cavalry. The one thing is that Lone Linkor would maintain his status as being a tremendous nuisance and a problem for me to beat, but at the same time, like, this would be able to beat the actual infantry army of the Brettonians, which I think is a good thing to be able to do. It's how you win against them. So yeah, that's going to be my look at Brettonia for this patch. I hope you found it enjoyable, and of course, as always, I hope to see you all next time.